name is Enzo D'Alessandro. I'm a hairstylist from Fremantle, born and bred. International platform artist, do a lot of education in Australia, ambassador for Corral International. I've been a bodybuilder with Australian State Championships on superbikes, and have a lovely family, 2 beautiful girls, a lovely wife at home. They're everything to me, and I'm someone with a goal.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Someone with a Goal. It's your host Quinton here, and today we hear the amazing story of Enzo D'Alessandro, owner of Enzo D'Alessandro Hairdressing. Now, in our sit down, what you're going to hear is a powerful theme throughout Enzo's ventures in his life, from bodybuilding, motorbike racing, and now hairdressing. And that is, he goes all in. All in on focus and all in on execution. Now, as a second generation Italian, Enzo shares the influence his parents have had on the man he is today and explains his love for fitness, racing, and how he's converted that passion to power as a business owner, going above and beyond to provide exceptional service and quality to his customers. Last but not least, Enzo shares some core business tactics he recommends you implement if you want to become a true professional in your field. So whether you're an entrepreneur or seasoned business owner wanting to pull the trigger and execute, I can guarantee you will take away something very special from our sit down today. So with no further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy this powerful interview with someone with passion, someone with purpose, and definitely someone with a goal, the amazing story of Enzo D'Alessandro. Enjoy. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure.
I really want to take you back to the Enzo growing up, your early days, obviously before this eventuated. Obviously this just didn't pop out of anywhere. But if you can take us back and share with us, paint us a picture of what was Enzo like back in the day and your upbringing.
Basically, I'm the son of Italian immigrants. They come from the Abruzzo region of Italy back in the 50s. Dad was a young boy, still in high school, and my mum was a couple of years younger. They're from the same region, but different towns. And basically, they grew up in East Fremantle and South Fremantle respectively. So my heritage comes right back to this place. And although the families didn't know each other, they met as young adults and got married. And I was born in 1972 in Fremantle, in East Fremantle. And I had a great upbringing. Had parents typical of a lot of immigrants of the day. We had grandparents that didn't speak English. And English was promoted in our family, so we were brought up to be Australians. My dad always worked for himself. He was taken out of high school at 12 years old to run the family business. And
12 years old.
12 years old. So, he didn't get much of an education as far as schooling goes, but pretty early into life. And from the very beginning, I sort of knew that I wasn't going to be able to work for anyone else. That was everyone in my family, in my immediate family, they had their own business. It was almost an option. I almost grew up to be unemployable, so.
So how old were you when you made that decision?
From as far back as I can remember, I saw my dad, and first I wanted to work with my dad. Yeah. And then obviously dad was in the wholesaling game. He was originally a butcher. He expanded the butcher to making small goods. He still has the property in East Fremantle. Okay. So on the corner of George and Duke Street, East Fremantle. So it's it's a trendy, popular little spot now with wine bars and restaurants and things like that now. But back in the day, nobody really wanted to live in these areas. Now they're all beautiful leafy suburbs, but there was nothing there. It was sort of the immigrants went there to live because that's all they could. That's the only place they could afford to live. Living in front of the river with all this wind, it was terrible. But Dad, growing up pre-America's Cup, I remember the property came up for sale and he sort of had to buy it because he was leased in there and he wanted to make sure that he had security. So it was, I'm watching all this happen and just thought, that was what we were going to do. It never crossed my mind to get a job, ever. Wow. So, and even then, we were, always doing side things as we grew up through there. I was always into the health and fitness sort of lifestyle back in the day, but I had no idea what it was until I got sort of, I was playing cricket. Okay. I got injured in cricket sort of thing, so that got a bit more serious for me. But getting back to growing up in East Fremantle, it was, a lot of the Italians sold their property. My family, for instance, aunties and uncles sold their property in East Fremantle to move to Spearwood in Hamilton Hill, and that was a better move for them back in the day. In hindsight, it's crazy now, but yeah, it was just watching Dad buy property and things like that. That was always what I thought you did, So I could never understand, through high school, and then so I went to year 12 high school. Grew up whilst Dad worked in East Fremantle. He also moved out into Hamilton Hill. Okay. But he kept his property in East Fremantle, which was in the end a blessing. So I went to Hamilton Senior High School. And that was an education in real life. Quite often joke, there's a barbed wire fence around that place. It wasn't then, but later on there was a barbed wire fence around there, and that's not to keep people from getting in, right? It's to keep the students from getting out, I think. So so it was fun. I don't really have anything bad to say about my upbringing. I thought, Dad wasn't home a lot because he was always working, and I thought that's just what you did. You worked hard, you had Sundays off, and that was it. So
I think that Italian culture of hard work, perseverance comes, and obviously it's passed on to you. But where's Mum and all this? What did Mum do?
Mum was just she kept everyone together. She was the rock of the house. Dad went out to work, but Mum is always on the phone paying the bills. Organises Dad's life, organised Dad's life, our lives. She was,
behind the scenes.
Yeah, so she was always home for us, but just constantly always busy as well. They just worked. They just had amazing meals on the table every night, So definitely, there's probably a misconception that people think the man is the boss of the family in Italian culture, but it's really the opposite, So we do as we're told, and the women, the mums, they're like on a platform. They're the goddesses. They hold the family together. So if they're good, everything's good.
Nice. Now you're saying you've realised at an early age you did not want to work for anyone.
Yeah.
So what was your first job, or you worked for Dad? So what were you doing?
I did. Okay, so Dad, I would go in on a Saturday morning into work, and I just learned to be with people. So, probably 13, 14, I was going in on Saturdays and cleaning up the shop. I always wanted to, get in there with my hands, that sort of stuff too. Obviously, like every kid wants to do the good stuff, not the bad stuff. So, it was always going in from Dad, and he'd take me with him when he went. On those days, you'd work all day, and then after work, he would do deliveries to people's households, So I would go with him, seeing what was going on there. After that, so I just knew that you had to sort of, I don't know if it was instinctive or it wasn't really instilled in me as such as to try different things. But I left high school and I got an apprenticeship as an electrician. Okay. I did things like, so as I got an apprenticeship as an electrician, I started getting into weight training. And I come across some people that were making fitness clothes. So I had the idea that I would buy the clothes off them. We had a little sales ring going on the side. I did apprenticeship because that's what you did as an Italian kid, if you didn't get, no one in my family had been to uni yet. Okay. So it almost really didn't, even though I got decent, back then it was TE results, I just didn't want to sit in an office, So I was running around selling bodybuilding clothes, and back then we all wore baggy pants and loose tank tops, anything, making, before I actually became an electrician, I had like a job just filling in time making wrought iron. So I learned how to weld and things like that.
Oh, okay.
So we make little fireplace, like log holders, bird cages, things like that. I was selling those on the side as well. So just anything I could to make a buck, that was pretty much.
And this was your little side hustle that you were...
My own, yeah. Wow. So it was, obviously I worked for someone that taught me how to weld and where to get steel from and how to bend it and things like that. And little things that taught me how to use my hands, because obviously my dad wasn't that way inclined. It was more into wholesale of goods and that sort of thing like that. So I learned how to be handy, and so got me through my apprenticeship. But it was working for someone. I felt trapped, even though I had a pretty good job. I had my car. I'd go out to call outs, and had some sort of flexibility. It just wasn't.
It wasn't fulfilling.
It wasn't
your purpose.
Contained. And I come up with, I remember my wife, she was a great supporter at the time. So I remember saying, my boss at the time says, you can't, I started a side business, and the boss saying, you can't just take those off to keep doing this business. It started to grow, I started to do more and more for myself. And he's like, well, you've got to make a decision. You can't just keep going as you ring me up and say you can't come in. And I go, yeah, that's not fair. I ring my wife, I remember walking out of the office, ring my wife up, and this is the situation. What am I gonna do? She goes, just quit. No. I go, really? So that's as clear as day, that conversation. And I walked back in the office and said, I quit. And he was a bit stunned. I was like, what? So like, yeah.
This is the electrician, the Sparky.
That's right, yeah. It's my boss at the time. It was a big company. We specialised in mining equipment. This was just before the mining boom, in the early 2000s, 99, I think this was, 98, 99. But yeah, so I specialised in fixing welding machines and mining equipment and generators and things like that. So it wasn't a house Sparky. It was, that was pretty cool. It was, you're out and about all the time. Yeah. So, but it wasn't, obviously I've got a social thread to me. It's something that I like being around a lot of people. And just working one-on-one with a machine, whilst it can be therapeutic, I just needed more, and needed to not know that no matter what I did at the end of the week, I was going to get what I was going to get, So it was just, I suppose you want to be in control of your own destiny,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, wherever that is.
So yeah, whatever that is, and that's really what I want to lead into, because you made the decision to cut. So did you have something solid to fall back on?
Not solid.
Okay.
Not solid.
Share
So it was a bit of a leap of faith, So I was doing all these bits and pieces, bit of clothing, bit of steel fabrication, things like that. But I was getting into my body. I was getting bigger, I suppose. I was getting to a point where I entered bodybuilding competitions, which wasn't something. I've never been someone that, it's a stretch for me to take my shirt off at the beach at the time, obviously now I'm a lot smaller, but there was, basically what happened was I was playing cricket. So I was playing A-grade cricket at the time, and I had an impact. I was in the field, and it was a short run. A guy blocked the ball, went for a short run, and basically I had impact with the batsman, and my shoulder came out. So I dislocated my shoulder. It was a fracture in the end, which I still suffer with things from that day. So I went into rehab.
Gotcha.
and started training to fix the shoulder. I just started to grow. You don't know anything about eating. I thought ham sandwiches were healthy for you. So at that time, I was getting more and more into that industry, and I come across some people that were a big influence. They had hairdressing salons.
Okay.
And they were bodybuilders, and they ran the state governing body for bodybuilding. And so on a conversation, let's do something together, we started running a bodybuilding show together. And we thought, it's been quite small in WA, let's make it bigger. Let's bring it to, say, we were, at the time, they were getting running like they are now actually, in sports clubs and like the Italian club and little venues. So we thought, if we get together and do it, we could do something quite big. So we thought, okay, let's hold it at the Burswood.
Yeah.
So we found the biggest, most expensive venue we could. When we went there, it was 20. I remember thinking, okay, it's $20,000 a night just to hold this venue. You've got to use your security. You've got to have, a certain amount of security staff per 50 people that are there, that sort of stuff like that. So it was something far beyond what we had expected. We thought, well, how are we going to do this? So it comes down to getting good sponsors. So it was really good exercise in approaching people, what the sponsors want to see. We thought, you know what? Me being quite naive, rock up to Coca-Cola and ask them to be sponsors. And they did.
No way.
But instead of being Coca-Cola, obviously they used the Powerade brand and things like that.
Yeah.
So
we had you approaching a brand that's
I had a few connections with coffee shops around town and that sort of stuff like that. So we had I could be biased, but I think it's the best show ever had, because we had Coca-Cola sponsoring us. We had I don't know if you heard of the Aroma Cafe. The Aroma Cafe, so Rob Muley was generous enough to sponsor us for the title sponsor for the show, in conjunction with Premier Volvo.
Oh wow! So
we had Premier Volvo, which was the contact from my partner's side.
Yeah.
And they're still in hairdressing now, actually, right? So shout out to Mr. Bromley. Yeah. And so they were
They all came together?
Well, we had subcontacts, they had their contacts. It was just a beautiful, like I don't think anyone in Australia has had sponsors like that. So we got to drive around in a convertible Volvo for the night. We brought it up with a car. We had Steve Fitton as an MC from, I think at the time it was 96 FM. So
what year is this?
This would have been 2000.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 2000. So it was...
And this would have been the first of its time, this big event?
Oh, there's not been another show like this. Wow. Yeah, and it was just because we were so passionate. He's an international competitor. We both of us had won national titles, and so we had a passion for bodybuilding. We knew what the people wanted to have. We had like coffee machines going backstage, and muffins and Powerades, and at the time too, the VIP tickets. The guys had bouquets and platters on their tables and things like that. It doesn't happen now, unfortunately. It's changed a lot. So. So that taught me a lot about going into bigger companies and just speaking to people, and we made good money out of that event. But it was a one-off. It wasn't something that we were inspired to keep doing. I think it was for both of us. It was a stepping stone because it's a lot of effort to get a lot of sponsors together, pay for the venue, pay. At the time, we sent every winner away to the national competition. It was a state competition, so everyone got airfares and accommodation sent to the nationals, That doesn't happen anymore, sadly, which I think is wrong because it costs so much money to compete and to get ready for a show. I mean, it's a shame that we've got a bit of a meathead sort of stigmatism about it, but it's quite scientific and it's quite regimented. There's nothing harder. Like you have to basically do the same thing every day. You have to eat every 2.5 hours if you're doing it properly.
It's discipline, isn't it?
Discipline. It's discipline.
Consistency.
Relentlessly.
Oh man,
You can't do what you can't do, even if you want to. Yeah. So I think I'm pretty proud of the fact that we rewarded our competitors. We put on the show that we wanted.
Was it a capacity crowd? Or was it?
We had, we everything went according to plan, as scary as it was. I mean, the last week, hoping everybody shows up and buys tickets at the door and that sort of stuff like that. But, it was, one was enough. One was enough to say, okay, this is not really what I want to be. But we did this right once. It was almost like, I don't want to ruin it again. So, so that was our stepping stone, nice little stepping stone to our world of being a promoter. Yeah. But again, I made some great contacts later on in the hairdressing industry because, strangely, fitness and hairdressing, there's a lot of people mixing in the two.
That's obviously two professions that are different in their own industry.
I suppose we all worry about how we look and that sort of stuff like that. So there's a bit of that,
very true.
Very true. There's some very big name hairdressers out where they're involved in gyms and that sort of stuff as well. So, but my insertion heavily into hairdressing, like where I saw more through that era. Yeah. And the passion started to get stronger there. Before I was interested in it, and it was cool. I was, doing an apprenticeship and that sort of stuff again, in another unique way. But it really, because of my involvement with these people, my partners at the time, in another business, I saw an industry that took another industry got my attention.
So they opened doors.
Exactly. And I think I'm a creative person. I always did as a young kid. I had art lessons and things like that, and I think I've always been able to imagine something, but it wasn't always technical and methodical. But then I quickly realised it's great to imagine something, but it has to be developed with method. So you have to.
Obviously planning and systems.
There's got to be a system in place to build what you want. It's like building a house, you know? So, and I suppose then I went looking for a mentor in that industry, So that's the biggest thing. I think if you want to learn something properly, you have to have a good teacher or a good inspiration at some point. And then, they might lead you to a point and then you take on another one. So
that's powerful. And I want to unpack some of that. There's a lot to unpack there, but I want to touch base. Really, I'm interested, is that how did you approach those sponsors for that event? Did you have, did you practice in terms of public speaking or approach or your confidence? Were you a very confident person back then?
No, I'm not a confident person now.
Oh, share it. So how did you, what was that mental dialogue like? I need to get this done.
What I do is I throw myself in the deep end. I think, if you analyze something too much, you don't do it. And you get frozen with fear. And the only way I'm going to learn, you don't I'm just a big believer in you don't learn from things going right, you learn when things go wrong.
Imperfect action.
So of course the first person I went and spoke to wasn't Coca-Cola. You know, I started off with the smaller businesses, people that I sort of knew. And I realized what people want to see. You know, you can't just go to someone and say, please give me some money, we want to run a bodybuilding show. The first thing Coca-Cola say, well, hang on a minute.
Who the hell? Yeah.
These guys take drugs, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's a personal question. I don't know. I have not asked them, you know? So I didn't want to tell any lies, but I didn't want to...
Obviously jeopardize the image.
Well, you know, and you know, how do I know who takes drugs and who doesn't take drugs, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, you know, when you go to the Olympic Games, we don't say, are you taking drugs? We go to watch, you know, we want to see a show. And how they get there, that's a personal choice.
It's a personal choice.
Yeah, so I just want to see top
athletes
performance
at their
in
top,
good shape. Exactly right, you know?
At their peak.
Perfect. So even we even did a lot of coaching of athletes to say, look, don't just go up there and pose like a meat axe. Let's get good posing routines together. Anyone that we coached, it was a 12-week lead up, and you were doing your posing routine every day, and you know, not holding things that display yourself in the best way, so that people could see you. And you got 5 minutes of fame up there. You're in your jocks, you know, like you just died for 16 weeks. Like, display yourself. You got 5 minutes, and you know, if you don't do well, you're not even going to come back at the night show. You're not even going to be seen again. So you know, so it was. In the interest of other people displaying themselves, well, you want whatever, if you're passionate about something, you want it to look good. So when I went to the sponsors, I wanted to present them the best light, not the most negative, right? Because also too, I'm seeing it in the great light. Let's talk to people about what is, not what they've heard about it from someone that's not passionate. So I took my beliefs to them and how you've also got to say, well, how's this going to benefit you? I go, well, Jesus, everybody knows who Powerade is. They're going to be buying, this is what we think is good after workout. We scull like a isotonic drink and things like that, you know. Also, big companies, you know, they've got budgets for advertising and sponsorship, and they're going to do it anyway. Sometimes people are scared to approach them, so these budgets go wasted. They might be spending it on lawn bowls, for God's sake. So for me, I was passionate at the time about bodybuilding. And
it's easier to promote something when you're passionate.
Exactly. Why not give us a chance to show you what we can do? You know. So now they haven't. To my knowledge, they've never done it again in bodybuilding, but to my knowledge, maybe no one's ever gone and asked them again. So we had representatives from Coca-Cola there on the night on VIP seats. They enjoyed the show. So I think you got to, you know, business is, it's not a win-lose situation. You both have to win. You both have to get something out of it. And it doesn't always have to be something that night, you know. So you've got to present somebody with why it's good for them, not just, you know, if it's only good for you, why would someone waste their time? So for me, it was all about, okay, how can I get these guys to, how can I show them that this is something that they could be interested in? You know? So, I mean, for me, football, bodybuilding, it's just all sport, right?
So, win-win. I suppose with the bodybuilding, obviously discipline and consistency and those skills. What skills have been transferable from your bodybuilding days to your hairdressing, and which you've applied now?
Okay, so relentless application, for sure. You know, it doesn't matter if you don't feel like doing it or it's scary, you're gonna, you know, the thing is with hairdressing is that you're going to, bodybuilding is very, the one thing that's different is bodybuilding is very internalized. It's just you, it's very selfish. When you're dealing with the public, it doesn't matter how good you are. You've got to really be consistent and relentless in your training to get to a very high level. I would argue that a lot of hairdressers don't do that, you know. It's a shame, but there's a lot of beautiful hairdressers out there as well. But in general, it's like anything, the 80-20 rule, I'm a big believer in that as well, you know. Application, you almost have to be a bit compulsive where, you know, you've done something, you've got to do it 100 times before it's okay for you.
Give us an example of that.
Yeah, it's never good enough, you know, and if you feel like that's good enough, it's a terrible attitude. So in the same way that bodybuilding, if it's good enough but it's not the best, you're going to embarrass yourself when you're up on stage. If it's good enough on a client, they're not going to stay with you. You know, they get that, they know that.
They know.
Yeah, they know. Yeah. So the feeling of completeness, that pursuit of completing a look, an image, I think is very similar. In the level of importance, you know, it's probably more important in hairdressing because if you're failing anybody in bodybuilding, it's just yourself. You know, And you could argue your family had to put up with you for all that time, you know. But you can't fail people that are paying you for a service. I mean, it's, you know, not everybody likes what you do all of the time, but you should give your best all of the time. So somebody's paying you money for a service. How dare you not give your best? You know, so you've got to give your best all the time, and it's about consistency. Sometimes you can't have bad days and good days. So I actually can't remember where I heard the definition of professionalism, but basically it's the difference between your worst days and your best days are very small. Like it's that variation of differences. You can't be up here and down there. You must, even if you're not at the top of your game, that difference must be so small, and that's being a professional. So yeah, I would say that it's that delivering your best every time. Yeah.
In terms of, so how do you do that in your salon, say with a customer? How do you deliver, apply that the best through customer service?
Well, customer service is, the great thing is when you're, customer service is something that everybody can do today.
Yeah.
You know, you can change your mind and do it, you know, serve someone brilliant today. Because technical training takes time, it evolves, you get better every year, you get better every day, you know, if you apply yourself. If you do the same bad thing for 20 years, you're just good at doing the same bad thing for 20 years, right? Yeah. So for me, customer service is you know, while you're developing your skills, there's no excuse to not have that customer service there. It starts as an apprentice, it's opening a door for somebody, smiling at somebody that, you know, smiling and saying goodbye to someone that you might not have done their hair, but they're going out the door, you still say goodbye to them, thank you for coming, you know? Make them feel like they had an experience and that they're welcome here anytime, you know? As far as the technical side of things, you know, I'm big on, you have to learn, and this is where it came back for me, speaking to people, you know, asking people for sponsorship money and things like that. So basically, you have to develop the best way. Everyone's different, but there has to be a consultation procedure. So what you talk about the client's look, about the guests, the way what you're going to do to their hair, they might come in, they might want a specific thing, but I really like to say, this will look amazing on you. But we're the professional, we should give that option. Hey, it's all out there. We haven't touched their hair yet. We can do exactly what you want, but I think this will be better. So, but the main thing is what you speak about in the consultation, at the end of your service, you can say, well, we talked about this, this, and this. We're getting this, this, and this. So you've actually ticked the boxes of what you've talked about at the start. So like any business, if you have a goal, and then when you complete, you know, that goal has to get completed, you know? So it's a very short-term goal because, you know, there's something that they want to be done within a 2-3 hour period, you know, color and cut and things like that. But at the end of the day, you must back up what you talk about. So first of all, you have to have a vision. And secondly, you have to have the technical training to achieve those goals. And everybody wants to feel beautiful when they walk out. You don't want to feel worse than you walked in, do you? So, you know, and guys are the same. So the main goal is that you get their best version of themselves in front of the mirror.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah. I wanted to just touch base on that because especially in the hairdressing industry, obviously they have expectations. But if you go above and beyond their expectations, you have a happy customer, you have a testimonial there where they can refer to. How important is that word of mouth advertising for you?
Everything for me. Yeah. It's the only thing that I've relied on. It's only just now because everything's changing and the younger generation is growing up with social media, that it's now that I realise, okay, for the younger generation, this is how their mind works. So basically, social media is something ingrained into them. For me, it's not necessary, you know, because I never believed in it. It's not saying that I don't believe in it now. I believe in it for my team. But for me, the thing is, the word of mouth is the most important thing because basically they're coming in because they've seen your work already. They're almost so 50% of it's done. They know what to expect. But you might do something that is quite avant-garde or quite cutting edge or quite confronting. But they'll say, okay, I know you can cut hair, but I don't want that. But they've got confidence in your skills already. Or they're, you know, it's like if your friend talks about you, refers a business to you, you sort of have that comfortable feeling already. Half the job's done. Of course, though, sometimes it's, you know, you have to live up to those expectations as well, which is not easy. So a lot of it, again, is the first interaction with the customer, the sit down chat, that little part there.
I think it's also integral because the brand is you. This is your brand, Enzo D'Alessandro.
This is true, you live it, yeah.
So it's not like some other franchise brand out there, but
No.
it is a reflection of you and your service. So.
And that name is on the door. Originally, it wasn't what I wanted.
Okay.
But I was convinced that it was another conversation that we had with some suppliers at the time that says, no, we should have your name on the door. My concern is always, well, is that really good for business? Mm-hmm. That's not like, how do you sell your business at one stage? How do you want your business to be independent of yourself and things like that. But the difference between being a stylist than anything else you can do is you live it. You can't take the hat off when you go home. You can't be a hairdresser. You can't be a successful hairdresser or very good at what you do. And I believe this is the case with anything. You can't go home and you're not that person. Yeah. So the person I'm at work, I'm that person at home, although sometimes you're exhausted when you go home and things like that. But you have to live a style. It's the way you meet and greet people, talk to people, is the way you pick up.
It's not an act.
No, it can't be. Yeah. It's because people know that straight away. So, and you have to get inspiration from somewhere. And I certainly don't get inspiration from other hairdressers. Nothing regarding hairdressers. And it's not to say that I admire the work I do, but if we just look at the hairdressing industry, it's like being in a fishbowl, and you're always just copying someone else. So I try to get inspiration from the outside world, from other things that I do, because I don't want to copy.
Like what examples? What do you mean?
Definitely travel.
Okay, so traveling inspires you.
Traveling has opened up, because it wasn't something I wanted. Didn't have a travel bug when I was young, but whenever I can. Motorcycling was a big thing for me. I could get on a motorcycle and it's meditation, and I'd stop off in the Perth hills and stop there and look at a river, and just a colour would come to me or a feeling. So every time I can come up with, I want to recreate, because hair is just a material. Mm-hmm. Like silk is a material to a fashion designer.
It's like a canvas.
Exactly right. Yeah. You could have cotton, leather, anything you want, but they can make a pattern and cut it and put it onto a woman and make a dress out of it. But I don't think we see it that well in hairdressing most of the time. So hair is just in a material, like silk is to a fashion designer, that we can manipulate. So for me, it's like, if I see a shape in nature, in a building, in the art gallery, and I think, I understand what they've done there, how can I get that on hair?
Gotcha.
I then have to develop the technical skills and technique to make hair do that.
Or the colour come out like that.
Or colour come out like that, or how do I get that? And colour's a funny one too, because there's only 3 primary colours, but you can do so much with it, and how you play with the temperature of them, how much of that colour you put in. So, but with a hair cutting, for me, that's the craft, because it's like being a carpenter. Like, anybody can cut a piece of wood and join a piece of wood, but you see some amazing structures, and you think, how the hell do they do that? How do you make how do you curve that line? How do you make an S shape? And the same thing goes for us with hair. Then that gets, so as soon as you get that little spark, then it gets the mind rolling. How am I going to get that? Yeah. I can't just freehand it. I can't just wing it. It has to be something that I can show someone they can do it. Mm-hmm. So, and I have to be able to train that into someone else. So that's where it all starts from. Yeah.
That's really inspiring. In terms of that and your creativeness, I can hear your creative side. And you're a visionary. How did this eventuate the vision that you had for where you are here today in Fremantle?
Yep.
Obviously, you got the products here that you're an ambassador for. So, how did that all come into?
That's a cool story. It just happens. I never set out to be an educator. I never set out to. I'm not inspired by doing competitions. I want to help the person at home do their own hair. They should be able to do it themselves. So. It all started out almost by accident. When there's 6 hairdressers in my family, it's almost in the blood, I suppose. So my sister was a big inspiration for me in the beginning. She was already doing her apprenticeship when she was like 15. So, and part of having the business, I always wanted to work with my family. I always want to.
Give back or provide.
I want to do something together. I think it's a cultural thing. Yeah. Like we even now, my brother has restaurants overseas, and he's talking about coming to live back home, and we're thinking about how we can do something together. Nice. So I think it's a cultural thing that you want to succeed with your family.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, and you want to keep them close as well. So I think it's more of that. You want to keep everyone in your pockets. So you want to be close to everybody. So originally I got into hairdressing because it was at the same time as I was in the bodybuilding industry and selling a few clothes on the side and doing a bit of everything. A little bit of seafood, because my dad evolved from having just meats to seafoods and supplying restaurants and supplying hotels and things like that. So we had contacts that were selling sort of stuff all over the place, but I thought, wow, hairdressing is a cash flow business. So I wanted something that with wholesaling, you get paid a month later if they want to pay you.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
where at hairdressing, you get paid for your service straight away. So first of all, it was just a cash flow business idea. So I approached my sister and we started together. Then I started to research, well, hang on, why is hairdressing big? What makes hairdressing big? And I did a bit of research and we got back to Vidal Sassoon. And I saw this picture of Mary Kwan's bob. So it was a classic, I mean, even if I showed you, I'm sure it looked familiar to you, and you're not a hairdresser, right? It was, you know, the whole Rosemary's Baby, that movie, that era, you know, so he did the haircuts of the movie. He's did all the supermodels, Twiggy, that back in the day. So he was an amazing craftsman. And so when I looked at that, I thought, wow, you can do that with hair. And I didn't see bobby pins, I didn't see hair rollers, I wasn't interested in that, I just saw the form of a haircut. And I went, okay, I want to do this. But of course, no one in my circle could do that. So the journey then came, this is how we're leading into how I got the salons now. So basically the journey then came, let's find the education that I can do, whatever I see in a magazine I want to be able to do. It's not good, it's scary to just be an average hairdresser, you know? Or if I've got to cut a fringe and you start freaking out because the hair sticks up and things like that. So I don't want to say you can't have, a lot of hairdressers will say, well, you can't have a fringe, but of course you can. But you can't have,
as a hairdresser, you have to try and
exactly. There's ways exactly. So I just went on a relentless search for education. I spent so much money on training, and a lot of it's wasted. I shouldn't say that. Nothing's wasted. A lot of it is stuff that you don't use again, or it wasn't right.
That you've taken on board.
Yeah. It's like anything you try. A lot of the stuff you have to throw away. And I come across a variety of people that started to focus around the areas where, okay, we're onto something here. This is where it's going to be right. And we just kept heavily committed to training on that regard. And then for me, it's opened up everything. It seemed to come naturally. And that company that I was signed up to for the education asked me to then do education for them. So I was signed up for education for them. They were running workshops. And while I was still an apprentice, they asked me if I would like to be part of their platform crew. And then I thought, no. But then they convinced me that it's a necessary part of your evolution. And looking back and looking back pretty quickly, I realized it's true, because when you're doing a haircut, you've got one experience happening. When you perform in front of your peers, you can't just do what they were doing in the salon. So you end up getting, if you're performing in front of 20 people, you're getting 20 experiences. So that just exponentially increases your experience as well. So I realized the value of working in front of people, sharing, gives back, comes back to you tenfold. So we opened up a salon in Mosman Park that grew. It was an amazing salon. The business batted well above its weight for the size of the team. We had a team of about 11 people there. Then we opened up, we had a salon in Subiaco, and over time I found that it was hard to keep the quality that I wanted over 2 and 3 salons. So we sold Subiaco and focused on Mosman Park. We bought the building. That became home, it was 16 years there. So, and then as we evolved through there, a colour company approached me that had asked me for a few years to come aboard them as in business partners. And I didn't want to do it initially. In the end, we thought it would be good to expand the brand. It didn't work out in the end, but part of it.
It was a lesson you took on board,
Yeah. It's a lesson. Again, when things go wrong is where you learn, And even the business of having a partnership, you learn so much in how you should do it properly there. So that was just an experience that, because in that partnership we started Fremantle, and that's how I arrived in Fremantle. So basically it's always something I wanted anyway. It's the town I'm from, so it was always a target to get to Fremantle at some point. It's unique. We're a stone's throw from the ocean here. We're in the West End. It has it almost feels like you can be in a part of Europe, but it's
It has that feel,
yeah,
almost.
it's the most unique part.
Obviously.
Exactly, it's the oldest town in Western Australia for sure. So it's just that's how we end up in Fremantle. But of course, every time, so I'm always on the search for something unique in the industry. So our products evolve. So I'm always after something that you can only get from the professional, and something with a story. The product has to have a story. You know, so we ended up with a beautiful array of products. We ended up with Corral as basically it's something that has a beautiful story behind it as well. It's a family-owned company in Italy. Happens to be from the region my parents are from. So it just seemed right, you know.
Just come full circle.
Oh, it was just incredible, yeah. So, and then to meet the owners behind the company, it was just like a beautiful experience. It was just like you knew them for 50 years already as well. So, and of course, I've got to make a beautiful product, otherwise you wouldn't go there, you know. So, and it's very unique to me that I've been able to see how everything is made from scratch and in-house and then batch tested, and the quality controls there and their passion behind it, where the name comes from. So everything, the same things that I love about having my own salon, to see somebody have that passion in their products, for me, it's a good match. It's important like that. So you have to believe in what you're selling.
Nice.
So.
And so we're just going to go into some strategies and some tactics for our audience out there who may be looking to get into hairdressing or who may have their own salon. If you can, really just tell us what has worked for you in today's economy in terms of getting clients in maybe, or marketing, and what, especially in Fremantle, you know, the thoroughfare of clientele that's going through here. What's worked for you in promoting your business?
Fremantle is very unique in the sense that, like any business is the same in the sense that how you get clients and how you keep them, client retention is consistent across the board. Fremantle is like a village, so you have to become part of that village as well, right? So you've got to make sure the shop owners know you. You got to support and get the support back as well. Gotcha. But of course, I think in this day and age, Fremantle is no different to any other city. I think that word of mouth is still the most important. However, if you're starting a new business, you can't sit there for 6-12 months trying to get a client base, because it does take a long time to get word of mouth happening. You know, you can only, basically people don't talk about you that much if you're great. They'll talk about you if you do a bad job, you know, but you know, you don't go out for dinner and talk about your hairdresser. So the main thing is you do have to have strategies in place to get people to bring some friends in and things like that. So first of all, for me, the number one thing is you open up a salon, try to pick a good location. Okay, so for a visual standpoint. It's not everything, but it makes it easier in the beginning if you're new. If you're not new, you've got that referral base, you've got that client base, it's okay. Secondly, training. Okay, you can't neglect it. You can't think that by having a beautiful setup, magnificent products, and then not spending money on training your team, it's just got to fall down. Time, people. It doesn't matter the technical aspect of what you sell. It's like going to a steakhouse and you can't get a good steak, right? Why would you go there? So basically the job has to be good. So for me, it's picking a good team. So getting good at when you hire someone, it's someone that you want to work with. Okay, not because you have to hire them. You know, so desperation is not a good. I see that in a lot of hairdressing. Your owners are desperate, so they hire the wrong person, or they don't negotiate correctly at the start. They're giving in to the stylist straight away. So everybody should be, as a business standpoint, make them prove themselves first, okay? But make sure you pick somebody that you want to work with, because it's like working with a family. You're in one room together. You're not in office cubicles. It's not like if they're good at their job, it's going to be okay. You have to function well as a team. Because we're all basically, the more people function as a team, the more clients you can do in one day. Because on your own, you can do one person at a time. Yeah. If you've got a good team, I can have 3 or 4 people in at a time. That, yeah. Exactly. And we have to, so the problem with hairdressing is leverage, right? You're only getting paid for the job you're doing at the time. So you need people that can put colours on for you, work in your manner that you've trained them to, and get the trust of the clients. So basically, you can have 3 people going at a time rather than just the one. Otherwise, the margins are so small in hairdressing, it just wouldn't be worth it. Yeah. Secondly, I'm seeing and believing now in social media for a new team. So if you don't have clients and you need to build them, but that is a full-time job in itself, and finding the right person to do that for you is, you know, you've got to interview them like you do your staff. So basically with social media, I went through many interviews and finally found somebody that was doing what they say they do, okay? You also, but that on its own is not, you've got to be able to measure it, so you've got to be able to analyse it and see that it's working.
Return of investment.
Yeah. So a good person will show you and teach you how to read the reports on a social media campaign, so you know that it is hitting the targets that you set. And it's got to be local, so you've got to also, one thing to have, you know, great, get 10,000 followers in your first month or whatever, but if they're from America, who cares? So we focus on having a smaller following in our community.
Okay.
And then of course, in-house promotion. So basically, if you've already got a client base, use that client base to help. They already like you. They're coming 3, 4, 5 times, already.
You've established that relationship.
Exactly. And of course, if you want to build a client of like-minded people, a client base of people that you like-minded, clients that you've got. So I really favour the aspect of them referring a friend. So you reward the client for bringing somebody else in, so you give them a referral card. And that allows you to target that type of client as well, so your favourite clients. And some, I don't want to say it, but some clients some salons might be the clients that spend the most. I like to say it's a quality of client that we like, okay? So the people that are wearing the looks that we like to have. So if you reward a particular group of clients for bringing someone in, you tend to get more of that type of client. And who doesn't? And it's got to be a reward worth them talking to you about. So it gets them talking, because people don't talk about their hairdresser. If you give them a card to give to somebody else with a reward on it, basically they're more inclined to pull it out and say, hey, you should go and see my hairdresser.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a call to action as well. So that's probably, for me, they're the main strategies: hire well, train well, social media, and basically internal client reward program.
Perfect. The last question that I like to ask, and I can feel it already, but how significant is family? But more significant, how do you balance business and family?
Well, significance of family is everything, because you can't do.
You need that backing.
Yeah, you need so much support, because they allow you to go to work and pursue your passion, and they're taking care of everything else. So my wife at home, she's a busy woman. She's, finishing off her degree. She works in a school. She's looking after my 2 little girls. So, little girls, the oldest one's 17 now. But basically, they have to take on a lot that you probably should do at home, and you can't. So the significance is massive, right? And the understanding of it, because it's like an addiction going to work. It's not, because it's not work. It's not. It's something that you just can't say no to. It just takes you there, and you have to have. It's not. My kids are the most important thing in the world to me, but they probably don't always know that, because you're not always there. So without your family, you can't possibly get good at and pursue what you want to do. So to say there's balance, I would say any successful person probably doesn't spend as much time as they would need to, or they would like to, with their families. But the balance is, I always just try to say, and you're always working on it, it's always difficult, and you always have to be evolving with it, but the time that you're with people, make it count, rather than, it's better to have 1 good hour than 10 shitty ones,
Than stagnant.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect. Just one more advice. Is there any advice you'd like to give out to those who are upcoming through the ranks in the hairdressing industry, or who are looking to build their own business? What you've eventuated here.
I think if I had my time over again, I would earlier find a good mentor.
Okay.
So someone that's good at what they do, and if possible runs a good business, because there's plenty of really great technicians out there, but running a business is different. So either work in a big establishment that has good technicians, but just definitely find somebody that will be a great mentor for you. So they're passionate, they're well regarded in their skill by other hairdressers. Not necessarily, and I'm not saying photo shoots, and people that win photo shoot awards and all that, they're just photo shoots. You would be amazed what goes on behind the scenes. But someone that actually knows what they're doing, because at the end of the day, a client has to want to see you. So someone that has good
it's practitioner that's practicing.
So find a mentor and be relentless. Be relentless at what you pursue, and don't take no for an answer. Don't, if all that you've put out is not your best, don't accept it, So always put out your best work. And you have to be a bit hard on yourself. So be relentless. Don't think that 8 hours a day is enough. Don't just turn up. and be honest with yourself. And yeah, pretty much the rest will fall into place.
Awesome. Enzo,
It's a pleasure.
thanks for your time.
Hey guys, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed that sit down, bring it in. And if you too are someone with passion, someone with purpose, and someone with a goal, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now so you can be inspired by more interviews of others just like you and me who are out there making it happen. Again, thanks for watching. Now let's go take action and let's go get it done.